Welcome back, everyone, to the Fly Culture Podcast with me, Pete Tigers. I hope you've had a great Christmas, you've caught up with family, you've caught up with friends, and perhaps you've even managed to get out somewhere and cast a line. I'm starting off with a dedication for Joe Black, who used to fish the Annan. He sadly passed away on the 21st of December, and Chris Leonard contacted me and asked me if I would dedicate the podcast to him, and I'm very happy to do that as well. So this one's going to be on the river. I got up early, drove up the A303, and I'm meeting up with Ed Thomson, and we're going to do a little bit of fishing. We chat and have just a nice day on the water. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. Ed, can you tell us a little bit about where we are today?
Sure. We've got, where are we? We are at Burkham, so just west of Wilton, west of Salisbury, and we're on the Nadder, which flows west-east, and then actually, I think, joins the Wiley like 100 yards above the Cathedral Close, I think, just in Salisbury. I'm watching my dog ruin the water in front of us, but I'm not going to admonish him. Anyway, so it's a lovely bit of water. I grew up fishing. My grandfather he wasn't a founder member, but some army mates leased this from the Pembroke estate, the Wilton estate, I think in 1956. And there were like 8 of them or something, or a handful. And we've got 2.5 miles from the bridge where the A30 crosses at Barford St Martin. So we're called the Barford and Burkham Fishing Club. It's a lovely bit of water. It's pure. We've been, since we had the late, great John Druitt join us, probably I'm guessing 25 years ago, we've been completely wild. He made us completely wild then. We'd only been stocking fingerlings for 10 years before that, and so I think of this river as a lovely sort of pure natural river, so total natural fishery. John, you knew John, didn't you?
Yes.
So John managed 6 miles of the Ebble and was just a sort of wonderful doyen of chalk stream fishery management. And I've got photos actually of this river from the 70s or earlier, before I turned up. When my grandfather was here, and the banks were all barren, there were no trees, no alderbushes anywhere, and if he could see this river today, thanks to John, he wouldn't recognize it. All the broadwater's been brought in, we've rebuilt the banks, and it's just a heavenly little bit of river.
It looks absolutely stunning, and I'm excited to make a few casts on there. There's also some nice history here as well, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I brought you down here specifically to show you the house that our secretary now lives in, which towards the end of his life, Skews lived in, GM Skews, and he fished this bit of river, the bottom half of our river. So I think from Burkham Bridge downstream to where we are now, and literally we're just watching our dog ruin the pool, but the other side we've got these lovely lawns coming down to this lovely nice run of river, and so Skews fished this back in the day, and lived just over there.
Is this a special place for you?
Well, yeah, I learned to fish here. My grandfather lived in London. I wasn't born around here, but since about 5 or something, I came down here 2 or 3 times a year with my mother to fish with him, or just sit and watch him fish. And then, we stuck him in the river years ago. And actually, as I was saying earlier, his great friend Tony Hayter, who wrote a biography on Skews, gave us access to the river to do that, and then eventually helped me, along with 1 or 2 other friends of his, become a member. Back when, I think I was told originally I couldn't join until I'd done some form of service. So I went as a early 20s. My grandfather died when I was 20 or so. Or maybe 23, and I immediately wanted to join, and the Major General who was running the place then was like, was a little bit sort of, well, you might want to go and do something first. Not that I did much, but I went to join the HAC for a bit, and a few years later I was elbowed in, yeah.
It looks a beautiful piece of water. What's the plan?
So I think we're just, we've got a bit of sun, thankfully, because this is a green sand river. It actually springs in a mate of mine's garden up near Tisbury. And I think it's pure chalk there. But here we're over clay and we're green sand. So there's always a bit of colour here. But we've got low water or lowish water. It's really clear. There's a bit of colour. We really want a bit more. I mean, the bright weather's great, so we actually stand a chance of seeing a few fish. But we're probably just going to have to do a bit of speculation.
Sounds perfect to me. We slowly walked up the river, just chatting away. Ed's been the dutiful host, much to my irritation, that wanted me to have the shots. So I had a few. Just fishing a single nymph under a yarn indicator. I've got it about 4 or 5 feet up. That allows that nymph to get right down to the bottom. The river's not particularly deep here. It's probably knee to thigh deep at the deepest. And I've been covering water relatively quickly. The sun's behind us. Sometimes my shadow's going across and up the pool, so I'm sort of sometimes throwing it a little bit longer, so at least I get a little bit of drift. I caught out of season trout, no photos of course, and just slipped it off, and that went back. Fishing that sort of single nymph in a conventional way with leader and fly line. I've been using a tension cast a little bit as well, because it's about 3.5 mil, something like that. It's got a pink tag on the end. I've got a leader, it's probably 12, 13 feet, something like that. As I said, the indicator, yarn indicator, I've just primed up so it floats okay. And then when the fly's gone downstream of me, I take my rod down flat and close to the water, lift it up, and then just flip it forward. And it's a great, easy way of getting a heavy nymph upstream of you again. So I'm not casting a great long line upstream. I'm trying to keep everything compact and tight and together so that I can hit a fish when I need to. I feel like I haven't fished this way for a little bit. I was out in Denmark, doing some fishing out there, and then I did the podcast with Paul, but I haven't really been winter grayling fishing. It's the last few days of 2025. So when Ed invited me along, I just had to say yes to that. It's been really enjoyable seeing Ed show me all his favourite spots, telling me some great stories. One of them we're going to share with you a little bit later, which is hysterical. But there's something about showing people your home water, isn't there?
Yeah, we were talking about, you were saying, go fish, fish, fish. And do you know what? I just enjoy sharing things that you're sort of proud of. And this little stretch of river, which is, deeply unimpressive, not a chalk stream, has no, other than a little bit of history, it's just a little stream. But because it's so pure and been wild, and it's just a totally complete fishery, I love it. And I love it's very technical though. So, my mates they like fishing, but they're not perhaps technically as capable. They're going to seriously struggle here because, we see it now with, no foliage anywhere, midwinter, and it's all looking pretty easy with a nice amount of water. But come here in the summer and it's pokey. So I don't really share it that much because, they come here and they don't really catch anything. Or it's very hard work. But it's just lovely seeing you fish, or friends fish here who understand what they're fishing, It's very nice.
And I think what you said will resonate with so many people because everyone has, and a large percentage of people listening will be fishing places like this that aren't the big name places. They're not as well known. They may not have as much fame, but it doesn't matter. It means a lot to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's deeply sentimental because my late grandfather is in the river. I'll end up in the river. And, it's where I was brought up fishing. So, it's just has that magic sentimentality to it. And, having had the likes of John Druitt and John Stoddart, who now looks after the water so well with very able hands, it's just so good. you know, and it's got better and better. And I'd actually take the opportunity to talk about the non-stocking thing, right? Because we mentioned earlier, you know, 20 years ago, pretty much nothing, you know, and 10 years before that, only fingerlings. But for the first 3 years, quite barren, you know, really not that many fish. But year 4-ish, you know, quite a lot. I mean, like really noticeable amount of fish. And the average fish here is about 10 to 12 inches. But we have quite a lot of fish, loads of fish actually between sort of 12 and 14, quite a lot of fish between 15, 16, 17, and then a handful of really quite big fish. And the fishing has just got better and better and better and better as the years have gone by. So it makes me wonder, you know, on this small river with half the biodiversity or a third of the biodiversity of something, you know, one of the big Hampshire rivers, you know, what those rivers would be like after 20 years of non-stocking. And I can't stand, I mean, you know, it's quite fun going to one of those rivers and seeing some sort of massive sub that, you know, that's going to be fun, you know, but I stalk deer a bit, you know, so the last thing I'd want to do is walk to a post and rail fence with no grass, just sort of corn-fed deer, pop my rifle on a post and rail fence and slot one. The fish, I think, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you know, they're constantly starving until they're killed. So I'd much rather catch the fish that is of the natural size the river will deliver. And my God, they fight hard. And if we could only sort of, you know, get people away from the, you know, every Instaposos of them with a big fish and actually just the beauty of a small fish or a natural fish, pure wild fish, you know, I think we'd have much better fishing.
Hear, hear. Just walking up the river, just making a few casts here and there, and it suddenly dawned on me about reds this time of year as well. I've seen a bunch of reds, so I've tried to stay as tight to the bank as I possibly can so that I'm completely out of the way of those reds and are not stepping on. It's worth keeping an eye out for them if you're out fishing for grayling right now. One of those days that's been challenging. It's been hugely fun again to see somebody's home water, see them speak so passionately about it as well and their love for it, and you can close your eyes a little bit and imagine summertime and a spinner full and the fish rising. Sun's been out, wind's been about, it's northeasterly, probably a little challenging. I caught probably the smallest grayling of my life, but we're going to try and make this a 2-centre holiday. We're going to try and head over to the Wiley and have a quick hour before weather closes in there and see if there's anything different there. It's one of those things where we've had this drop in the temperature, and I'm sure you all know how grayling are when temperatures or conditions change. Wonder if there's an element of that. But we thought we'd give another river a go, so we're going to head over there. But Ed, you talked passionately about your trout and your grayling fishing, but I know you're no slouch with a spey rod as well. And just wondered, for you, where does that stand in the rankings for you? Are you a trout angler who salmon fishes, a salmon fisherman who trout fishes? How would you describe yourself?
That's unbelievably difficult to answer because the thing about casting a double-handed rod is that it feels so much better. You know, obviously, you know, single-handed rod's a lovely thing to cast, different types of actions, weights of line, balances, etc. But, you know, there is something special about the loading and unloading of tension through a double-handed rod that is special. And when you see, obviously, it's much longer line, and when you see that, you know, if you get a really nice tank track and a smoking bit of wool, or beautiful if you're practicing, or just you know, you make that, you get that cast right and you land it's not about distance, but you just land it, you get that full extension on a long reach and you pick up a fish that you wouldn't otherwise get. Yeah, that is a great feeling.
And what about when it comes to fish, trout or salmon?
I mean, salmon, there's something special about a salmon, right? I mean, that is a magic fish. I think it's the context that makes a difference. You know, if it's just fish for fish, it's a salmon. But if you've picked up, you know, a hell of a trout, beautiful fish in very challenging circumstances, then that can stand on shoulder to shoulder.
And for people, I often ask salmon anglers this question: when you're locked in, when that line comes tight, let's say I know some of the places you love to fish in the UK, but when that line goes tight, for people who haven't hooked into a salmon before, can you explain that feeling and what it feels like to have that connection?
Such a difficult question, Pete. How to verbalize that? You know, that incredible sense of it's a release of pent up tension and excitement. It's, you know, and usually it comes, of course, when you least expect it, and you're just then, you know, it's just a magnificent connection is the word. You took the word out of my mind just now, and all I'm thinking of. You know, you have that raw power. You typically that lovely take, which you lock up, and you think, is it? And then, of course, the fish, depending on what it is, the fish is going to go, and then it's, you know, and you lift into it, and it's and you get a bit of a Henman, and it all gets exciting. Difficult thing I can't really articulate it. It's just a magic sense. Do you know what? It's, you know, that phrase, fish for the take, but it's the anticipation with salmon fishing that really, and of course, now they're so difficult to find and catch, it almost amplifies that sense of achievement when you get it right.
And do you think as well that, you know, often used term, that mental well-being of fishing and all of those sorts of things, but with salmon fishing, because there's such large periods of nothing happening, do you think that's how you manage to download or de-stress or clear the mind? Do you think that's part of it as well?
100%. I mean, you know, here we are today, and I've blanked thus far, but we've been on a beautiful bit of river with the sun on our neck most of the time, mostly sheltered, but, you know, a bit exposed. But it's just, I heard a kingfisher. I don't know whether you heard a kingfisher up by that hatch pool. When you whistle in an otter, I have otter coming up here, and I've had them really close, like you whistle in a squeak in a fox. But just, when you're enveloped by the natural world, it is escapism. And then on top of that, you know, you have a fish or the take and the anticipation, or the loss. You know, it's very rewarding and super therapy. I mean, actually, I was chatting with our mutual friend Brett today, and you know, I was actually talking about you and you know, the loss of your friend Perry, and I was like, and Brett was like, oh, it'd be good to get him out and get a wetter fly, you know, and I was just like, yeah, you know, #therapy. So yes, it answers all, you know, it softens all kinds of stresses in life.
And moving on a little bit, I've been watching you cast your beautiful glass rod, and you are an AAP guy instructor. What made you take that route? And if I'll give Ed's details at the end of this, but you'll see him casting practice on the Thames as well. There's some lovely shots of him wandering down there as the tide's low there, and you'll see him casting a spey rod down there. And if you're in London, you may well have seen him doing that, so you'll know that it's Ed if you listen to this. But what made you want to go that route and become an instructor?
Well, as another member of the association, Paul Beecher, who's a good pal of mine, and we met through another great mutual friend, a salmon doyen, lovely guy called Anthony Luke, who has a fishery in Norway. We met there maybe in 2011, something like that. And we became mates, and then we used to get guested on the North Tyne again with Anthony, and we just became chummy. And he's an AAP guy, double hand advanced, but has one of the most extraordinary actions you'll see, because he has a lodge in Patagonia, so with all that wind. Anyway, to answer your question, we were fishing Nunnick Hall on the North Tyne, and I was pretty competent with a left hand up, but he saw me casting, and I was chopping across, I think. And it was okay, but it wasn't pretty. And he just sidled up to me, chit-chatting, and then just very casually, why don't you just keep that elbow in of your upper arm. Okay. Why don't you just sort of stop the rod at the top of those trees there, or 45, little things. And I ended up just implementing four or five bullet points, and and they were making such an impact immediately that I literally just wrote them down on my phone, bullet pointed, and every time I went fishing thereafter, I reread these, and whenever the wheels fell off, I checked them, and it just made such a visceral improvement to such a tangible improvement to my presentation. I just thought I'd like to be able to do that for somebody else, and that's why I did it.
That's a really nice story. And did you find that you got that same feeling as Paul probably had when you're able to help people and come along for some tuition?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful thing to see someone respond. So it slightly depends how they respond, and I'm relatively new to the association. So, I teach a reasonable amount on the Thames, but, I have a day job as well. So I teach in the winter and the weekends. So I can't teach as much as I'd like. But yeah, my experience thus far has been, when, like yesterday, I gave a lesson to a really quite competent caster who's off to Argentina to fish with Paul, actually, in a few weeks. And he had a lovely tempo, great lift, lovely anchor already. So he was already pretty good. So, and then everything I asked him to do, he kind of responded pretty rapidly. And I could see, when you see the visible improvement, or perhaps the understanding of how to remove the variables so you can control where you put your anchor, and then just the difference that makes to have your anchor laying nicely flat, pointing in the target, and how easy everything becomes when you do that, to then see them do that and then send out a lovely, crisp, beautiful loop. That's great.
That sounds very, very nice. Should we go and find another river?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the sun's starting to disappear, the light's going. Been one of those good days, and when you fish with somebody but you haven't fished with before, I talk about it a lot on here, that you just never know how it's going to play out. Are they going to be a rod hog? Are they going to be a pool hogger? Are they going to have all the best shots? But of course today wasn't like that at all. I don't know, I've had many days like that in all honesty, but you always worry about those things. But we did our second leg, so we hit another river. Had probably half an hour, 40 minutes, caught some fish. That was thrilling. Ed had a nice grayling as well, so I'm really thrilled about that. And again, it's that similar thing that we've been talking about earlier, that you want your friends to experience the water a little bit, which Ed's done for me, and you explain, I think they'll be here or they might be there, and it's just lovely when you see the indicator dip and somebody lift into a fish, and it's been great from that point of view. 2 cent holidays are the way forward, aren't they?
What's that? Say again?
2 cent holidays.
Absolutely. Seeing different things, trying different things. It's a beautiful bit of river here. Thanks for sharing it with me. Nice to have that fish. Needed it. Didn't need it actually, but it was very nice. It was lovely. Yeah, great.
We sort of ended the day just sharing a rod. We'd driven over with them just in the back of my van, made up, but we just took the one out, shared it, changed flies up once. I don't think I've changed them a great deal today. That's probably 3 changes in the day, so not a great deal. And I've often said on here that you fish under an indicator, you're probably not going to cover every single fish in the river, but you know what, it doesn't matter. It was fun, we enjoyed it. It's nice that Ed, being a fellow casting geek as well, that you let them have a go at a rod that you've carefully set up for the sort of fishing that you're doing. And as I said, it was a stiffish rod with a short head on it, but it works perfectly, turning over 3.5 mil of tungsten, casting it out and just having some fun with it. And it does sort of transcend the catching aspect of it. That's the fun. But even seeing somebody cast it, and it's even nicer when somebody says some nice things about the balance and stuff. But when are you fishing next?
I haven't got a clue. I'm going to go for a cast with our mate Jim up near Preston in January sometime. We're going to go and, I don't know, thrash around with some single and double-handed rods. That'll be fun. Otherwise, I think, I'll probably come back again down here and try this setup, because your setup works better than mine. Yeah, but no, I've got a GLX Loomis Stream Dance, which was a rival to this rod. So I'm going to put that up and try this setup and go from there.
Fantastic. Well, it's been one of those really, really good days. We had a big breakfast this morning as well. We haven't eaten any lunch. We haven't drunk any water. It reminds me of the days when I was a lot younger, when you just fish. I've just noticed Ed has his rod holder magnet on the side of his car, so he's driven from one river to the other. I could probably fund a small nation with the amount of those that I've lost and replaced over the years. But it's been, one of those good days, and a nice way to see the end of 2025, and we'll look forward to what comes next year. I'd like to say a huge thank you for everyone who listens, to everyone who takes time to write to me as well. It means a hell of a lot, and I really enjoy hearing from you. And I'm so pleased that you enjoy these podcasts. As Ed will attest to, that we don't plan what we're going to say. I just start talking and then thrust the microphone in his face. And I think hopefully that it makes it a little bit more real. It's not carefully scripted or crafted. It's just exactly as it happens, and it's not been one of those easy days on the river today. I've got to be honest. It's been challenging, and I'm convinced it's something to do. Do you think it's possibly something to do with the temperature and stuff like that? That we've seen this drop in temperature, and the fish are just a little bit out of kilter a bit.
Well, we had a northeasterly wind, albeit it was mild today. I'm just looking at my watch, and there's been a steady decline in pressure throughout it. And we came here, we saw a little bit of a hatch trying to get off the water, didn't we? But we didn't see anything rising. Oh no, we might have seen one fish rise actually. But no, it's been tough, and we've tried different techniques. And I switched to a clink and dink, which that was quite fun, and it enabled me to use this lovely new glass rod, which I'd never cast before, so that was lovely. We're standing here now. We've got this beautiful pinkish hue as the light's fading away. It's been a really lovely day. So thank you very much for having me here.
Before we go, look up Ed on Instagram. Give him a follow. You'll see him casting in the Thames. I think have you seen salmon there as well?
I saw 2 salmon show. I cast left bank at Isleworth, just in Sime Park, and on the right bank, just south of Chiswick Bridge, just downstream of Chiswick Bridge. But at Isleworth, I have seen 2 salmon show 2 rods length off, 2 different lessons this year. Early on in the like April. And since before that, it was 7 years ago on exactly the same place on the other bank opposite. So give salmon a chance. Give them a chance, and they'll be there.
Nice. And when you're giving these lessons on the Thames, do you get? I've had loads when I've been casting in parks and things like that. Do you get those smart ass comments?
What, from passers-by? Yeah. Do you know what? It's actually very lovely, because I get people coming down. You get there 2 hours before low tide, so you've got a nice draw coming on, and so you've got a bit of a beach. It's a very nice place to cast, actually. And so you typically get people just walking down. They're interested to know what you're doing. They're always asking what you're doing, and so it's actually been very friendly. And there are some kids down there fishing for, I'm not quite sure what they're fishing for, actually bream or rudd or something like that. Anyway, they catch sea trout. And they're a big pike down there. I often get people coming up saying what they do down there, and so the river is cleaner than you think. If you get there at first light, you'll have 2.5-3 foot of visibility. It's when the traffic comes down, the oarsmen, as soon as you get the city clippers, it all turns to mud. So they'll run at night. If you want to, I think if I'm going to catch a salmon, I've got to get there. I've got to time it for 2 hours before low tide there, at first light, because they'll be running. It'll still be clear, and they might be about.
We'll watch that very closely. If people want to find you, if they want some lessons, if they're London-based and want some lessons, how do they find you?
Just go to the AAP Guy website and find my name. You'll find my number there.
And Instagram?
Instagram, Tomo Fly. Actually, no. My public one is do Tomo Fly anyway. That's THOMO Fly, and then there's what is it? Taking Time. Yeah.
Give him a follow. See what he's up to. I speak to Ed relatively frequently. He is one of the good guys. He's a proper gentleman, old school gentleman, and I think we should support people like that. So, as ever, thank you so much for listening to the Fly Culture podcast. There's going to be more coming very, very soon. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Fly Culture podcast, brought to you in association with the Voice of Game Angling, Trout and Salmon, where Pete is the editor.